Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma Star, and welcome to another episode of Manspeak. Manspeak is an offshoot to our Heart Warrior series where some of our Heart Warriors come back and they have a whole nother episode talking about a topic they've chosen themselves, something close to their heart that they're passionate about, embodied in, full of wisdom and teachings. Now, today's guest is the return of our number 57 Heart Warrior, and that is fellow Aussie Cambell Purvis. Now, Cambell is an avid researcher. He's a podcaster himself, and he's founder of the Autodidactic and Spiral Up YouTube channels. So I'm really excited to chat to Cambell today, and his chosen topic is self-educate yourself. So enjoy. Hello, Cambell. Welcome back, this time to Manspeak. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. So this is going to be a great topic. So when I invited Cambell onto Manspeak and he accepted, I said, what do you want to talk about? And you said, being autodidactic. And I hope I pronounced that right. And I said, I don't even know what that means. And I haven't looked it up. So what does it mean?
You haven't looked it up.
I thought I'd wait for your
So I say autodidactic.
Okay.
Yeah. Autodidactic, it means to be self-educated. So it's also the name of my YouTube channel, or one of my channels. And basically I say, you need to be self-educated, because if you're not, the only choice you've got left is to believe what other people tell you. And, we've just been through the last 3 years and we've heard what people try and tell us. So, yeah, that's pretty much the whole sort of basis, really why I started, online and everything, is really just to get that concept across and try and get people to think a different thought. I don't want to tell people what to think. I don't want to, have a 10-step guide or be a guru or anything. I just want people to think a different thought. And then, a different thought, you do a different action, you get a different result. And I think it's that simple.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we should start with just a brief summary of why people need to do this. Why wouldn't what they taught us at school be correct? Or why wouldn't what is in the encyclopedias or Google be right? Why do we need to go off somewhere else and look for other information to educate ourselves?
Okay. Well, to start with, my opinion, the whole education system, it's just an indoctrination system. It was all started by the Rockefellers, if you look back in history. And J.D. Rockefeller has a famous quote that says, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." And that's what the education system is. It's to put us in a box where we believe what they tell us, where we believe that their reality, those who want us to control us, we start to believe their reality. And so we create that, because we are the creators down here. We're these people who, try and put the rules on, they can't create anything. They need us. And so how do they create? They just get us to believe what they want us to believe, and we create it for them. So this is the thing. If you're not thinking for yourself, you're being controlled. It's this is the thing. If you're being told something, it's because someone wants to control you. It's that simple. Because it's a lot different to questioning people and having conversations, isn't it? This whole you must, this is the truth. And we see it so often, especially in the last couple of years, right? This is the truth. Listen to me. You're wrong. Well, is there even a wrong? This isn't, there's all these questions that we don't really ask. We just kind of go through life just, taking on all this information, which is the thing about information. 98% of it is just opinion that's based on opinion. That's it. That's what information, and people are taking it as fact and running along and yelling it as the truth and getting into arguments and all this kind of stuff. And they don't even know where the information came from. And so this is why self-education is so important. If we don't know what we're talking about, we don't know ourselves.
So true. So people like, okay, they're thinking, well, I mean, first they have to get this point, don't they? I think to realize that there is an alternative to what they've been taught and to get some glimpse into why the controllers might want us to believe one reality when in fact another one is there, especially in regarding to our hidden history, to disempower us, right? Because if we knew how
Mm,
powerful humanity was in the past, we would be inspired
exactly.
to step up to that. Instead, we're told that, we were cavemen and, like we've evolved into what we are today, and there's never been anything better. So
Mm.
once people get that, then they can say, okay, where do I start? With all the censorship and all the different opinions, where do I find out what is so-called truth?
Yeah, this is where we need to ask. Another thing we're taught, so heavily is everything's physical. You're just physical. Everything's physical. If you want to make a change in the world, you have to go out there and move around physical things. This is not true, of course. And so the thing is, if everything's energy, if we ask and put intention out there, and this has been proven, through experiments with Dr. Emoto and other people, we draw these things towards us. And this is, and this is why we're the creators. We're put here to live a certain way, but we've been told, that's not true. It's like when we go to the school, and the whole school thing, of course, is massive. And if another thing, just to ponder is why does this system, the government, everything put together, why do they focus so much time and energy on making us believe certain things? We have the education system, we have newspapers, we have TV shows, we have, the whole media complex, we have gurus, we have experts, and we're not allowed to question the science now. Why? Why would they put all of that? Why would they even care? Wouldn't that stop innovation? If they were really here, to help us all build a better, wouldn't they want innovation and free thought? But no, the thing is, they want us to believe that, yeah, we started off as amoebas that turned into frogs, that turned into monkeys, and now we're the epitome of anything that's ever existed. It's us. We're so smart. But if we knew that this place is cyclical, it goes in cycles. We've had free energy. We've had, civilizations in peace, without war, with good leaders, that are for the people. We've had all this. But yeah, if this was taught in school, everyone would be looking around going, what happened? Can we sort of get back to there? And that, this is the thing. So they can't admit history, and so that they rewrite it all, and they give it away in the spelling, right? It's his story. That's what history is, his story. And we know that it's written by the winners. So all of history is really, it's just fake. It's a facade. It's been written and rewritten. And our history, we think that we've got all this history that goes all the way back, and it's all this we don't even have books that go past the 1600s. We've got a couple, not many, but pretty much all we've got, we're looking at 400 or 500 years, and they're going, oh, we can tell you what happened 1,000,000 years ago and 10,000 years ago and all this stuff. But why would we believe? And people believe it. And this is the thing: if you're just going to believe what people tell you, then clearly you're not self-educated. But someone's leading you down the garden path. This is the thing, if you've only got two options, you're being told something, and when you want a third option, you're the conspiracy theorist. You can't have a third option in politics, can you? You can't have a third party. Sorry, that doesn't fit our model.
Yeah, I mean, we hear of these book burnings after each, sort of invasion or reclamation of different territory or religion or something, all the books get burnt. I mean, that's what we've been told. I presume it's true. History is rewritten. We know the Bible's been rewritten, but this is what I'm saying. So this is so fascinating, and we could do a whole show on this, but where do people start finding their truth? Is there one truth? Is there different
Yes.
truths? How do we navigate this research?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I would say everyone has their own personal truth, and this is why we shouldn't go around telling people that they need to believe what we believe, because what works for you will not work necessarily for someone else. And this is the problem I have with gurus, and they're just follow this course and you'll be happy, just follow this and do this and you'll be a millionaire. It may work for them, it may, and they may even believe that it will work for others, but it doesn't mean it will, because you haven't had the same life, the same experiences. You don't see life the same way. You're not going to do things the same way. So everything is, we have to discover who we are and why we're here and what we want to do. It's really that simple. And then start asking, start putting out that intention, and in whichever way, right? Meditate, visualize, write, but put it out there what you want. Tell the universe, just tell it, right? This is what I want. And things just will start to appear. Things that stand out to you, look into them. Obviously, if things repeat, if you see the same thing for the third time, I would pay attention very quickly, because the fourth time is normally like a smack in the head because you didn't pay attention. So all these things that stand out, look into them, start reading. I mean, as far as research for the old world, I just started looking, and there's lots of sites that just have old books on them. All these stuff that we don't know about, that we don't get told, so they are out there, and just got to look, seek, and you will find. But yeah, as far as the history in that, especially with the Bible, everyone thinks the Bible's a couple of thousand years old and all this kind of thing. The oldest writings of the Bible are from the 1600s. That's all we've got. We don't have anything from 2000 years ago. So, and this will probably trigger a lot of people, but we don't even know, if what the deal with the Bible is, because we don't have the original writings. And then we have the Council of Nicaea, where we know they went through and they fully edited the Bible. They took out all these books. There used to be, I think it was over 300 books in the Bible. We now have 66. And they'll tell you, oh, the books that we took out, no, you can't read them. No, they're naughty books. Don't read those ones. They're not about God. Only the books that man tell you are about God are about God. So, and that's the other thing. Do we really want to listen to men and other people? Sorry.
I mean, who has the right, if there were, as you said, 366, however many books, who has the right to say, well, only these 66 are correct and the other 300 aren't? Just that there is a sign in itself. I mean, who has that right to deny humanity of this information? And this is just one aspect of so many of the religious and spiritual origins, that have been changed and edited and re-scripted to give us false information.
It's been happening and this is getting back to self-education, and this is why they know it. Education, information is the strongest currency out there. It trumps everything. If people, and again, that's why there's a war on information. That's why there's so much censorship at the moment, because that they can only take all these books out of the Bible if they can make people believe that they are an authority or something on God, and people have to follow them and accept that, and then not pass it on to their kids. There's all these things that have to happen. So it's not actually the people saying we're taking the books out of the Bible that's the problem. It's us. It's everyone following and going along with it and going, okay, tell me how to live my life. This is the problem. If you spend your life, living by other people's opinions, which, we take on and think is information, it's just opinions, you may find yourself on your deathbed going, if only. And that's one place I don't ever want to end up.
Yeah, we really give our power away, don't we? And it's just like an awareness around this, because we grow up in the schooling system just blindly believing everything and thinking it's powerful. The more we educate ourselves and go on to higher education, university, the more intelligent and knowledgeable we are, when actually it's the reverse, right?
It's the other way. Yeah. It is. I mean, they're crafty. They've done it well, and of course, the more you go into a discipline or a career, the more money you can make, the more they'll make you feel good, and they'll prop you up, and maybe you'll write a book, and they'll put you on stage if you keep going. And guess what? Then you've got a lot to lose, and they gotcha. You've got a lot to lose. You're not going to change your story. If you find out that everything you're teaching is wrong and your book is false, you're not going to give up your $1 million a year. I'm sorry, but that not many people will do that. And they gotcha. You're no longer a free thinker. And this is over-educated, right? Not self-educated. So all they've got you doing is thinking what they want you to think, and you're out there creating what they want you to create. And of course, yeah, then they make you feel really good about it, and you're the expert and everyone listen to them. But what's all this stuff based on? The thing about one of my big things with being self-educated is not many people extrapolate. Not many people, before they make a decision, think, where is this going to lead me? If I do this, where will I be in a year? What are the results? What's going to happen? People just do stuff, and then all this stuff happens, and they're like, oh crap, I don't like this, and then they do the same thing again. And of course, definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So the main thing we need to do is do something different, and we can't do something different unless we think a different thought, and we can't think a different thought unless we become self-educated.
Yeah,
So become self-educated and change yourself and change the world.
Yeah, this is great, Campbell. Let's get a bit into your story. I think this might be the best way because, the example of just give a brief outline of your indoctrination growing up. And at what point did you decide to go into be an avid researcher? And, what was the first topic that opened up, threw you down the first rabbit hole? Because then we all know they all interconnect, right? Once you start.
Yeah. Yes, it's all one. Yeah, exactly. I've had this problem because I started a history channel, and then I wanted to talk about more, sort of mindfulness. So I thought, two different topics. I'll start a different channel. I don't want to, and they've basically become one topic now. So I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? But my story is, like my dad was in mining, so I went to 7 schools, lived in 11 houses in sort of 3 states, 2 countries by the time I was 16. So I never really got indoctrinated. I was never there long enough for anything to sort of melt. That was good. But really, my first thought was and literally the first thought I can remember was, you've put me in the wrong spot. Come back and get me. There's something very wrong here. Like literally, that's my first thought that in this life that I can remember. And as a child, I remember what stuck out to me was that people lied. Like that was really what stuck out to me is, and especially adults, and these were like, people who went to church and, my first teachers, and I couldn't work out lying because it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Because when you extrapolate it out, right, when you think through it, it just does. It's stupid. It doesn't work out to be anything apart from makes you look dumb. And so I just started questioning, why do people do what they do? Why are people doing this? Why are people pretending to be someone that they're not? I don't understand. And these were my questions when I was like young, and so I kind of became a people watcher, and I guess always being the new kid and moving around a lot sort of helped with that. So I just used to watch people, and I just used to think, why are they doing what they're doing? Why are people going around in circles? Why are they doing the same thing, not liking it, and then doing it again? Yeah, so I was just sort of like this from day dot. And for some reason, I just always knew that there were answers in history. I was always interested in ancient history. I was always, trying to find books and that. But this was pre-internet, this was back in the 80s. And so I didn't, we didn't have many resources. I literally had the old Encyclopedia Britannicas, you know, in the little brown bookcase. I stole them from the lounge room and had them in my room, and I would just grab random volumes and open them up randomly and start reading because, you know, I was looking for something, but I had no idea where to find it. And I just kept looking. And that was, you know, you keep looking and you end up finding, I guess. You know, and along the course, I sort of got onto Graham Hancock in the 90s or late 80s. And that sort of led me down more into the alternative history, because with history as well, I couldn't work out why everyone would, you know, because back when I was growing up, it was only the pyramids of Egypt, right? And but I knew that there were pyramids all throughout South America. I'd read all these articles and stuff, and I'm like, well, why are we only talking? I don't. And again, it was this disjunct of information. It's like, why are they getting everyone to focus there when clearly we've got all this? And then it dawned on me, well, that one they can explain with their story, and the other one they haven't worked the story out yet. They can't explain it. So it became, I noticed that it was just all about information. Just on my journey, I guess, it just sort of came very apparent. And then I learned the word autodidactic sort of in my late 20s or something, and it just became my favorite word instantly. You know, I just, you know, so yeah, that's why I named my channel Autodidactic. But I've just, yeah, I think it was just, yeah, I mean, part inquisitive, but I mean, I think I was kind of destined to do, you know, it's like my life, I was just always on this path. Everything, like all these things just kept on being put up at me. And I was just like, this place is crazy. Why do people do what they do? And then I realized that it was because they've got the wrong information. You know, they're listening to other people who don't have the answers. They're listening to opinion that's based on nothing. They're listening to, you know, the group, you know, mentality, who are all pretending to be happy, but then go home and be sad. And so, yeah, it just became pretty obvious to me that everyone's pretending to be something they're not. And it's everyone just should just take the mask off and get a bit real. And if you got something you need to learn, go learn it. Change, you know, it's not that hard. It's harder not doing it.
Yeah, well, the pyramids are a great example. I mean, I remember, yeah, back in the 80s when I was at school, you know, we learned that they had some levers or something for these massive stones that they built with such precision on the pyramids, or, you know, pictures with donkeys and God knows whatnot. So what have you discovered about the pyramids? Give us the what you consider to be the true history of how they built the pyramid.
Oh, were they built by a million slave workers just for the pharaoh? No, no. I mean, the thing is with that story is it the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, with their story, had to be built in 20 years because of the pharaoh they say it was a tomb for. He was only pharaoh for like less than 15 years, kind of thing, and there's only so much time that they would have known that they had to build it. And then, of course, you look into, you know, if you just look into the pyramid and the way that it's designed, it's on true north, it's got pi, all these mathematics encoded in it, that they couldn't have, you know, it's not just a building that they've lumped together. And the thing is, it's built of what we're told is limestone. But when they've done, you know, samples of this limestone, they find, you know, little shells and sea animals and crustaceans and things in it, which shouldn't be there. So it's poured. It's what we call a geopolymer, which is kind of like cement. You know, cement like, you know, different sort of products, and they pour it and it becomes hard. And we're finding out that most of the ancient sites around the world are geopolymer. They've been poured, right? Like the castles, the castles, they're all cast.
Oh,
It's all in the spelling.
yeah, I didn't know that one. That's great. So yeah, so okay, so
Mm.
so each brick is poured, like, so how did they build it then? How did they lift these massive bricks?
Well, they were poured on site. I'd say that they were poured where they were. Now, the thing is, the technology they had was much, much, much more advanced than we're told. These weren't people, you know, who just had sticks and copper chisels, you know, clearly. You know, they had advanced mathematics, advanced geometry, That's how it was based. If the pyramid's actually built on like a natural rock outcrop. So it's not even built on a flat surface. It's got like a rock thing underneath it. But they made it perfectly flat. They've got all these tunnels in it, that view stars. We're told that it's a tomb. It's not a tomb. There's not one mummy has ever been found inside of a pyramid, ever. There's even a stela out the front of the Great Pyramid that says that who do they say was Khufu, the Khufu's pyramid, the Great Pyramid. It says that he just fixed it up. There's a stela at the front that literally says that he didn't build it and it wasn't for him. But we're still told no, it was for him. The sarcophagus in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid is actually the exact dimensions to fit in the Ark of the Covenant into it, which is interesting. So what is the pyramid? This is the thing, Ark of the Covenant, right? That's an energy device. We've all read the stories and energy zaps out of it and all this kind of stuff. So all these things are looking like machines is what they look like. They're definitely not tombs. They're not just some kind of, astrological viewing platform. These are machines that were doing something. And there's different theories on what the pyramid was, but basically they were building it with tech that we don't have and that we don't understand. So that I would say that they definitely knew how to levitate stone. We have lots of kind of bits of information that lead us to think this. And then we have Ed Leedskalnin, who built Coral Castle, which is, I don't know if you know about that, it's in Florida. And it was this little man, 5'2", back in the 50s, built this part, and it's just massive limestone rocks. And he was just moving around by himself, and no one knows how he did it. And he says he was reversing the polarity and making the rocks resist the ground so that they literally just would float like magnets. When you try and push two magnets together of opposite polarity, of the same polarity, they resist. So he said he was just doing that and pushing them. So these are the technologies that the old civilization in the old world, its technologies were based on sound, frequency, things like this, that they didn't have, digital technology like we have. They didn't have all these little contraptions. It was a different kind of tech. So that's how they were doing it. And that's why everything that we see that they created just looks to us as impossible to build. Because with a crane and, jackhammers, it would be. But with different technology like levitation and things like this, then it's quite possible.
Yeah, and there's so many ancient sites around the world. I know there's one in South America that the stones are just so precise, massive stones that you can't even fit, a blade of grass in between. Like, how did they do that? It's like,
yeah.
Also there's pyramids.
But that's geopolymer as well.
Yeah.
So that's geopolymer. What we think they were doing is that they were putting it into bags that were like Hessian type bags, and it was like not completely dry. They'd pour it in and they'd put it in the wall and sort of put them all together, and that's why they would literally just push together, and that's why there's no gaps anywhere, because they were wet when they were laying them. Well, not wet, but still malleable. And so and that's why we get these different shapes. Some of the rocks have like just indentations pushed into them, and so that's what it looks like. They were just literally laying bags, and then the bags just wore away because they were just whatever. And we get this wall that looks like everything's been carved, to fit perfectly. But I mean, really, what was it? Sherlock Holmes, he said the simplest explanations, normally the best. So if you think about the tech to cut all these rocks intricately to fit like a jigsaw compared to just laying them as when they're not quite solid and they just meld into each other, pretty sure that's what they were doing.
Yeah. So how do you imagine the people were around the time of building? Were they human? Were they hybrids? What's your opinion?
So Yeah, everything seems to have changed kind of the late 1700s. If we just look back in history, we all know that the pictures of the 1700s, like they got their amazing clothes on, the women with their dresses and the hairstyles and the carriages, and everything's ornate, even the picture frames on the artwork, and everything's just artistic and amazing, right? And then we hit the 1800s, and everyone's wearing black suits and top hats, and they start building square, and it's something big changed, right? And we have regular resets in this world, which is something they're not telling you. And so something happened. So I think the people beforehand, what we see of the old world is that there wasn't war, it was collaboration, because the stuff that they were building and they were coming up with, you could only do this stuff if you were collaborating, because the buildings that we see from the old world, they're the same all around the world. We got the same buildings here in Australia that they have in South America, that they have in America, that they have in Africa, and that we're all told are European, right? They're everywhere, like this Greco-Romano thing. There's a reason that the White House looks exactly like the Vatican. It's like, how does that work? It's all the same building. It's all the same technology. So it was being shared, so all these, different peoples living in different areas, they were doing the same stuff because they were working together, they were working out what worked, and they were sharing it, and they were building, and it looks like there was a worldwide grid. It was all literally connected as a grid, that was all about getting, good, fresh, energized water, free, energy, good, vibrations, if you want, through all the cathedrals, which were pumping out frequencies, right, to keep people healthy and happy. So, and this is a technology they were working with, much, much different to us. That's why people walk inside a church or a cathedral, they don't see anything. They don't understand that the organ is a frequency device that affects our organs, right? We have organs inside us. The organ, they have choirs that sing, they have bells it's all music. They have the spires, and these big things going up into the sky like antennas. They have fractal designs on the floors. They have, and another thing is, all these cathedrals have big cisterns under them that are full of water, or at least used to be. They've all got massive water tanks under them, which is, again, they don't tell us this, right? So this is all, but that's where you got to feel the glory of God, right? But that's the frequencies that were being pumped out of it.
So in 1700s, you're saying there was this beautiful period where, humanity was in its power with glorious buildings, and then there was a profound change then at the 1800s. What happened from one to the other?
Well, isn't that the $64 question? So, like I said, we have regular resets in this world, and we all know of the Great Flood. Obviously, that was a huge reset that affected the whole world, but most of them don't affect everything. There's sort of smaller reset. Like Pompeii goes off and destroys, the Mediterranean kind of thing. Now, as far as we can work out, the last time this has happened is there's been an event. Looks like it caused a lot of mud flows and mud floods, so it probably involved volcanoes and things, but basically something that disrupted the world, and the powers that want to be, basically after the confusion, stepped in and took over, right? They basically, because what we get is, you look at the 1700s, everyone's happy, and they got all this tech and everything's arty and that. Then we get the 1800s, everything goes black and drab, and then the people disappear, and then suddenly we've got orphans everywhere. We have the orphan trains and all these things, even down to orphanatoriums where they were selling orphans, orphan auctions, all this weird stuff, orphans running the factories, right? And then as you sort of go through the pictures, then sort of people start coming into the picture, and they literally built like factory towns, and like companies like Hershey's and Heinz and all these companies that we still have, they were started as a town, and they built a factory and they'd fill it with orphans, and all the orphans would go and run the factory, and then they'd be given food and somewhere to sleep. And then obviously what happens over generations, 3 generations later, we think that we're here to work a job for some other guy. So basically there's been, yeah, a reset of some kind. We're not exactly sure what it was, but, you know, we've got things like the Carrington event, which was the early 1800s, which was basically people saw, you know, what sounds like plasma sort of cracking through the sky, and there were volcanoes everywhere and fires and all this stuff. And yeah, those who want to control us have stepped in and taken over basically, and imposed their rule. But they've done that through confusion and through stopping the education, but through telling people. And this is again why we need to be self-educated, because it's all to do with they implanted a new reality. They told these orphans and all these, you know, lost and disheveled people who had lost everything, and that this is now your reality, blah, blah, blah. And if they couldn't get through to them, they just told it to their kids. Because, you know, everyone thinks, oh, it takes 3 or 4 generations, you know, to change what people believe. It doesn't. It doesn't. You take a child away from its parent, 1 generation. You just tell that child whatever you want it to. It doesn't take that long. And so this is what they were doing. And then now we all think, you know, it's changing now, but when we grew up, you know, that's what we were told. Just work hard, go to school, get a job, get a mortgage, have kids, and then I don't know, I guess at some point you die. Hey, life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I mean, we can see it today, you know, so many kids in daycare. And I'm not knocking it. I put my kids in daycare when they were little. I didn't know any different. Well, as a single mom, I had to work too, but this is it. And then, you know, like the transgender agenda is just an example of that we can put in today's society of how this is playing out, you know, the same as it did 300-400 years ago. Oh, yeah. A bit more, but yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's you know, make sure that your kids are self-educated too. You know, this is the thing. You don't want anyone else to be getting hold of your kids and educating them. And this is their plan. This is their, you know, numero, you know, what is it called? Operators, Mondoranus. I can't even speak. But this is what they want. They want to control your kids, and the way they do that is to educate them, make them think what they want them to think. Yeah. So yeah, be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Cambell, I want to take this opportunity to talk about Australia, because it often gets left off the Tartaria map. But thanks to you, I know there are Tartarian buildings in Australia. So we're all told that, you know, Captain James Cook discovered Australia in, what was it, 1788, if I remember my schooling, something like that.
Yep.
So what really happened? What really happened? And then the big ships came out full of prisoners, and they just got put to work and built Australia, and here we are, what, 220 years later, or 250 years later. So what really happened?
That's the story. So I mean, you know, Terra Australis is on all the old maps, you know, looking back to the sort of 1500s. It's always there, yet they tell us, oh, that, you know, they were looking for it, but they knew it was here. They knew about Australia, right? This whole story of, oh, they didn't know it was here and they just bumped into it. No, it was on all the maps, you know, way before 1788. It's there. The Dutch were here in the 1600s, but our story says that, yeah, Captain James Cook turned up in 1788, jumped on the shores of Botany Bay. There was nothing here. Nothing, just trees, you know, just very primitive people, no kind of technology at all. And then that was by the 1830s, Sydney's full of masonry buildings, you know, like 40 years. So you got to ask the question, it's not where the bricks come from, but where did the clay come from? And where were the brick making factories? Where were the warehouses? Because there's a whole system that goes before, you know, the brickie gets the brick in his hands. You need all this infrastructure. Look at glass making to put windows in. Look at metal making. And coming out to Australia, apparently they didn't know anything about this land, but within, 10, 20 years, they knew where the iron was. They knew where the clay was. They knew where the good silica for glass or whatever. They knew where all these mines, all the tin mines, Australia is, you know what Australia's like? It's huge, and most of it's desert. You can't just walk around looking for mines, right? It doesn't work that way. So someone knew where all this stuff was. And also, most of these buildings were already here. So Captain James Cook didn't turn up in 1788. He was here in the 1770s. The first fleet wasn't the first fleet was army. It was 3 ships full of soldiers. That's what it was. They turned up and started waging war. Basically, is what happened. Before that, the originals were living here. There was Dutch here. We have information that there was Egyptian, Indian, different cultures coming over and seemed to be fine. But no, the British decided they were going to come and wage war. And then, like I said, 1788, by the 1850s, we've got cities all over Australia with like 10, 12-story, big, oversized masonry buildings. And you've got to ask the question, not even who built them, because we had no skilled labor, where do all the products come from? And then we have, I'm a 7th generation convict, right? Descendant from a convict. So my ancestor came over on the 2nd Fleet, or so they say. But we've got to ask questions about all this as well, because it's looking like that there were Caucasians here before Cook. And I haven't had a big deep dive, but I want to look into the bushrangers and see what the story there is. Why so early on was there this group of people that were so opposed to, these new people coming in and taking over? Were they already here? Who knows? So we have all these, all these strange stories. But the main thing is with Australia is we've got a short history. Like in Europe, they can explain these things, but the buildings in Australia, we can put them next to buildings in Europe that they tell us are 500 years old, 800 years old. They look exactly the same, right? And why would we be building a brand new country? Why would we be building Greco-Romano buildings, not English, right? Discovered by the English colonies. So we start building buildings everywhere that look like Greece, with big white buildings with columns on them and things like Old Parliament House. All the parliamentary buildings. None of them look English. What's going on there? And then we have these things called the World's Fairs, which I don't know if you've heard about, which were fairs that were held around the world between the 1850s. Well, they're still going actually, but started about the 1850s. The one in Sydney had this big building. What was it called? I can't remember at the moment. But basically the story is all of Australia's records, everything was stored in this building. Everything we had up until it was 1860 or so. And what do you know? The building burnt down and everything went with it. So we have no history here, right? And you were talking about before about book burnings. So many book burnings, but building burnings. And these buildings, most of them are brick or glass, but they all catch on fire. So that's how they get rid of the information, right? Because it's an information war. They just wipe it, go, no, that never existed. And if we all believe that, then we go, oh, okay, well, tell us what the truth is, and we'll just live that into reality for you, right? But so we've got to question everything.
Yeah, that's so true. A lot of the first rabbit hole for many people is 9/11, of course. And if someone wanted to start there, because we know YouTube is so censored, where would you recommend people start to, maybe explore that rabbit hole? Like what channels are uncensored?
There are a lot of good books. Yeah, there's a lot of good books and videos that were made if you can get hold of them, because they're obviously, thing is with the internet is that they can censor as we go along now. And it's very 1984, isn't it? Where I used to work in the, what was it called? The propaganda or whatever office, and they would literally change the stories as they came in. So anything that's in print or that's a DVD, it's not going to be altered. But also just different search engines, like Brave, Yandex, things like that. But what we're starting to find that, yeah, old books, you know, there's a lot of stuff in them, and they're the ones that you sort of need to get hold of, is the books where the information, because, you know, most of the good information, if the sites are still up, it's been censored. And this is where we are, and it comes back, it comes back to information, right? I don't want you to be self-educated. They want you to be them educated. So, but ultimately, how do you find that book? You put it out there, you ask, because again, everything's energy. So if you want information, ask, and you know, seek and you shall find. Asking it, that, what is it? Knock on the door will be opened. So yeah, I would just start putting it out there and intending, and this is what happens. You talk to anyone who's found this stuff, and they'll tell you, oh, I just got interested, and I don't know, this person turned up and handed me a book, and then this happened, and then this happened. And so if you're looking for it, it's out there, and it'll find you. You've just got to put out the right energy, and just search, just keep looking, yeah, make that your intention to find the truth rather than to believe, you know, what you're told, because believing's, you know, that's, and of course, you know, there's different ways to believe, but believing what other people tell you, that's the easy way out. Well, people think it's the easier way out, but it's not, right? Because do you think, if I just do what someone else tells me, if it all goes wrong, I can blame them and that's easy, but they forget that they're the one that's still living the life that they don't like. So it's actually not easier. So don't do that.
Yeah. And I mean, this whole monopoly on the information goes as far as even the printing companies. You know, the printing companies are all owned by them, the same people that own the media and control the Hollywood and the entertainment industry and the science industry and everything. So as for books, how do we know when we get, because we might get two books with two
So this is
contrasting stories on 9/11. How do we know which one is truth?
Exactly right. So this is where it comes down to, you know, not many people think about how they think. They just kind of think, you know, they're not like, oh, you know, have I worked this brain, have I programmed my brain to think properly? First thing is, don't, I would say, judge people, but don't judge circumstance. You know, we've got this, don't judge. Well, look, if someone's, you know, yelling at you, you judge them as someone that you don't want to be around, but don't judge circumstance, you know. So don't judge things as right or wrong is a big one. And trust yourself. So when you come across information, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. People think that answers are more important than questions, but I don't believe that. I believe that questions are more important than answers. For starters, you can never, ever get the right answer if you're not asking the right question. But people think that when they ask a question, it needs to be answered now, and now give me the answer. Oh! Answers can take decades, lifetimes to come. And so the problem is, people get information and straight away they want to charge it. They want to put it in charge. They want to say it's positive or negative. Now, positive and negative are charges, good and bad, right? Okay, that information is wrong. It's bad. Dung. It's now in charge of you. Right? That thought is now in charge of you because you've charged it, which means every time you come back into that same conversation, that thought becomes in charge. It's crap. You can't take that information on. You've cut yourself off. Same with if that's right. Oh, that's the truth. That's the truth. Oh, he said something different. Oh, clearly it's not the truth. Can't hear that. So don't judge information. Don't put things in charge. I just go, that's interesting. And it goes in your mind, right? And it sits there. And then down the line, you'll get more information. And it will either prove or disprove the information you've already got. And so as you go along, things will start to become apparent as truth for you. And this is for you, right? This is not about going and yelling at other people that this is the truth. Things will become apparent that they're true for you. They will start to make sense. Of course, that's true. Look at this. I've got all this information. But if we try and make these, you know, these decisions on one bit of information, we're cutting ourselves off. We can no longer think. Like I said, we've put thoughts in charge of us. So we're no longer in charge. So it's the middle path. And another way is, you know, the Vesica Pisces, right? The Vesica Pisces is the shape that's made when two fields overlap. So it's two fields coming together to create a third field, which is different. And that's where new things are born. Exactly right. So the Vesica Pisces. So we want to be the Vesica Pisces. We don't want to be the left, the positive or the negative and stuck there. We want to be the new thing that's created when we can take on both sides and not judge them and get a new thought from it. And that's self-education. That's how we learn. And I get asked this all the time. How do I know if it's true? And I say, just if you're self-educated and you're not judging everything, it doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter what people tell you, because suddenly nothing is good or, and was it Shakespeare? Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Okay. And this is the thing. As soon as we judge something, it's got control of us. So don't ever be afraid of information. If you're listening to something and you're like, this is crap, turn it off. If you're like, this is awesome, keep listening. That's it. It's just information. The common denominator is you. It's you. You're never going to be able to stop everyone else yelling at you and putting all this information in. So you need to work on you and how you interact with this information. And that's just, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. If you're getting triggered by information, ask yourself why. Because you put someone in charge. You put a thought in charge of yourself. So take charge. No, don't take charge.
Because we can observe our thoughts. So, when you understand that, who is observing our thoughts, it's that way we can become detached from our thoughts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah. And also another bit is work on I call it the gap. And it's the gap between getting information and acting on it. Most people react, right? Someone will come up and say, you're wrong. And I'll be, yeah. If we need to have that gap where we stop and think before we act, we don't want to react. So obviously meditation is probably the best for that, but work on clearing your mind, getting it down so you don't have the chatter. So when things are coming your way, you can think about them before you get into them rather than just reacting. And before you know it, you're in a screaming match with someone and you're like, how did I get here? What happened? It's because you didn't stop and think. It's because you're reacting. So that's another big thing, is work on getting a gap. So when something happens, you take a second or two before you act.
Now, I've always had a theory, Cambell, that we align with the reality of truth that we embody frequency-wise within our physical and emotional and mental fields, right? So this is why our personal truth can change. Maybe when we're 20, we believe one thing, and as we rise in frequency, we see what I call higher and higher truths. What do you feel about that?
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's a ladder. Especially bring it back to history. Definitely. First of all, you need to learn, that there's pyramids in South America, and then you need to learn before you can sort of go on to, there was maybe a lost civilization, and you need to know that before you can go on to maybe we had free energy, so everything is like a ladder. You can't jump rungs. And so many people want to jump rungs, don't they? Like we see it all the time, especially, on the online space, all these gurus, right? 20-year-old gurus telling you how to live your life amazingly, right? And they haven't even lived life because they want to jump the gun. They want to jump to the top without climbing the rungs. So I think, yeah, and this is the thing, we shouldn't be afraid to change. Embrace change. Change is good. Change means that we're seeing more, that we're growing more, that we've got more. I'd sort of put it to, as you climb, the ladder, you can see further, right? You can take more in, like as you climb up, and that's what it is. So there's no shortcuts. You've got to climb the rungs. You've just got to. We've seen people trying to take shortcuts and they run up the ladder and they get kicked off and they fall all the way back down to the start. It happens all the time. So yeah, I'd say definitely we need to, learn things, because you need to understand a certain, concept before you can move on to a greater concept. So definitely don't ever be afraid or ashamed about making change, because this is another way they get us. So, I talked before about the university and, the job and, the expert, and they put them up there and, oh, you're so great, you're so great. And now you've got a lot to lose. So it's very hard for those people to change, right? It's very hard for them to say, I was wrong. This is right, because, they've got a lot to lose. So don't get yourself in a position like that is one thing, because then you're jailing yourself. It's not anyone else. It's you or me or whoever's doing it, right? It has made that decision. And that's another big thing, right? About being self-educated. Don't play the PLM game, right? Poor little me. Don't ever do that. The world is not against you. If the world is against you, it's because you're thinking that it's against you, and you're creating a world that's against you. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, this is great, Campbell. And I think it's also important. I don't know about you, but there's only so much I can invest mentally in finding out truth on a mental level, like who built the pyramids, what we were doing, our galactic origins. Just, I mean, there's so many aspects that you could spend forever in that mental research field. I feel at some point you've got to detach and just come into being. And it doesn't matter who built the pyramids, and it doesn't matter what our galactic history is, because that just keeps us in the mental realm. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, it keeps us distracted. As soon as you try and do something different or leave the system, it'll try and pull you back. It just wants you to focus on it. And with all the with all the trolling and stuff going on, they just want your focus. So as soon as you bite back and get into an argument with them, they've won and you've lost, because you've just lost some of your life and you got nothing for it. And this troll sitting there laughing at you. Forgot what the question was. What was the question again?
I was just saying, there's only so much energy I personally can invest in
Oh,
the
yes,
field in
yes,
research before
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
So
it doesn't matter.
no, it is. It's all distraction. That's all. This. It's all, when you think about it, it's all the system. It's all this world that they're telling you is true and correct, and all this. That's all that all this information is. And again, we've been through the last 3 years. Even if you don't want to believe the information, do your research and see that these people that are telling us the information now are the same people that were giving us all the information from back in the time. Same families, same secret society, same everything, right? This is the deal. It's a scam. So we need to get out and experience. And this is, with all the 6 feet and the locking up and all this, they don't want us to get together. They don't want us to get out and chat and converse and to spend time together, which is what we need to do. Because we can sit and intellectualize, till the cows come home, right? And we can have all the answers, but who cares if no one's asking you for the answers, right? Who cares? Maybe we're just here to experience it. Maybe this is the trap, that to get us to believe that we're these little creatures, that are just here to work, and then we live and then we die and everything sucks and we're controlled and oh my God, it's so bad and it's a prison planet. Maybe that's what we're here to learn, right? That's not the truth, and that we can rise above that, and that we can become more, and that only exists if we believe it exists, because we create it. And if we create that, we can create something else. Maybe that's the big lesson we're being taught, right? Maybe that's what the unveiling is, because we're being shown that all these power structures and all these people making the decisions are being shown who they are, what they stand for. And it's basically, to me, that's just to wake people up. It's like, come on, you're going to put up with this? Get out and create something better. But don't focus on it. Don't focus on, oh my God, Joe Biden's doing this, and oh, this person's doing this, and oh, what? You don't know any of that's true. You don't. Look at AI. Like, we don't know. So why let it affect you? Why get upset at something that literally could be an AI person up there that's been programmed? We don't know. We've all seen the videos of the neck masks and all the weird stuff going on up there. It's literally a show, right? What do they call it? The Great Reset. reset, like set the stage, right?
Is it a matter of not becoming emotionally attached to, any information, like not like, like intellectuals often use that as a label, it's they're so knowledgeable, and that's their external label to the world, and they're attached to it because that makes them who they are, their identity. So, if we can just either research or not research, but either way, just not be attached to any information, and that way we come more inside. Like, okay, what's the difference between seeking information outside of ourselves and seeking information inside ourselves?
Good question. I go within or you go without. I mean, the truth is that there's not really an outside. Everything we see, that's all done in our brain, right? Everything we smell, that's all done in our brain. And we're a torus, right? We're a toroid. If you don't know what that is, it's like a donut, right? That moves. So literally the outside moves to the inside and the inside moves to the outside. That's what we are, right? The inside is the outside. So everything we're perceiving is inside of us, which is, a big sort of, it's a different way to view life, right? So the outside world, yeah, I really am, getting to the point where I think we create it all. And if we just focus more on the inside world and what we want to create, then that's what we would experience. But we have all this information coming at us. And again, this is why they do it, so that we can't create properly. Not many people have silence in their mind. Most people, close their eyes and it's like, rah, and there's stuff going off everywhere. So, I mean, that's a big bit, is quiet in your mind. But yeah, I think if we spend the time in, what is life, right? Maybe we're supposed to spend time, quiet time, creating what we want to experience, and then we're supposed to experience, and then we do it again. But because we're taking all these opinions in and all this fear and all this crap, we're creating that, and that's what we're experiencing, and we're not liking it. So I think going inside is huge. And also I think that's where the answers are. When you go outside, all you've got is opinion, based on opinion from humans who have read some book that some expert wrote or whatever, or heard it. Most of the time they heard it on the news, right? If someone tells you something, ask them where they got that information from, and they normally go, they don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the inside is, definitely got to go inside, use that to create your world, and then live into it. I would say is what we need to do. We're the creators. We need to create.
And the health industry is a massive subject as well of this, because who funds the medical schools where the doctors do their training? Who writes the curriculum?
Rockefellers.
Yeah, Rockefeller. So when people know this, they say, oh, they give so much power to doctors because, oh, they've been to medical school. But like any institution, someone has to write the curriculum, someone has to say what is truth that's being taught to doctors, and someone has to fund it. And it all comes down to the pharmaceutical companies as well. So they're funding, and Rockefeller are funding doctors and nurses and all the healthcare industries, education. And when you get this piece, it's like, oh, okay, so who tells them what is medical truth? Why has so much holistic truth been suppressed? And why are we now taught that this symptom gets this pharmaceutical cure or, drug or, it's all connecting the dots to get the big picture.
Yeah. Who's giving you your answers? There's a great doco, I don't know if it's still up after all the censorship, called Rockefeller Medicine, if anyone wants to look that up. But yeah, this is all the Rockefellers, and literally, J.D. Rockefeller made all his money off oil and all this kind of stuff. He brought in allopathic medicine. He literally went out and they demonized herbalism. Like if you read into it, like literally to the point where a lot of these herbalists were just so shunned that they committed suicide and stuff. They all shut down. Then Rockefeller started the universities and the schooling system. And then unless you went through one of his universities, you didn't become a doctor.
Yes.
Then there you go. Good. And that's how they killed natural medicine, just like that. So yeah, it's all there. So you know, who are you listening to? Where does all this information come from? And the other thing is, all this information, it's only 100 years old. We got hundreds of years of information before this that made a lot more sense, that was written by smarter people and people that were healthier. But you know, big pharma, you know, farm. It used to be farm, right? FARM. Now it's they had to get the H in there, right? They had to have the harm in there, so it's PHARM now. Big pharma, right? And it's all about profit. I mean, we know everything's, you know, brought to you by the P Pfizer, if I'm allowed to say that, right? They control, you know, the entertainment industry to get this all out. We've seen all the Hollywood stars coming up yelling at us. We've seen all the shows they've put out, and again, this is spells. Hollywood, the holly tree is the tree that they made magic wands from. That's Hollywood, is a magic wand, right? What a show's made up of? A cast of people, so they can cast their spells on you. At news time, they do a broadcast because they want to hit everyone, right? That's all in the words. This is all. It's all tied in together, and it's all a big scam to make you believe what they want you to believe. And if you do that, you'll create the world they want you to create, and that ain't the world you want to live in.
Yeah. And we've got about 20 minutes left. I know you said that you made a couple of notes. I don't want to not forget anything. What else is important to be said around self-education?
Let's see. What did I write down here? I think I've covered most of them. I forgot. Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, the big one is to believe, right, in yourself. Believe that you're right. Like, this is another thing. People, we put our energy outside of ourselves. Oh, I couldn't be right. You know, I need to trust the science. I need to trust the experts. Oh, that person, he's got a doctorate. You know, he can give pills to people. You know, and this whole you know, be an expert. You know, the what's it called, the jack of all trades, right? They sort of put down the jack of all trades as not being, no, you've got to be an expert. Don't be a jack of all trades. They're worthless. Jack of all trades can do anything. They can feed themselves, they can house themselves, they can fix things. Experts can't, right? And this is a problem with experts. They've got us into this place where we're not educated, where we're hyper focused. And so you might be a doctor, right? But if your plumbing goes out, you're stuffed. You got to call a plumber. If something else happens, you're stuffed, right? If you find yourself stuck in the forest, you're probably stuffed, right? Because you're not educated. You're not educated. You've taken your knowledge down into a point with not much down there. So believe that, you know, that you are smart, that you don't have to listen to experts, that your thoughts are valid, right? I mean, they are. And so that, I think that's the first thing. You can do whatever you want as long as you believe you can. If you believe the story, you know, if you believe, society is going to spend all its time telling you can't. You know, you can't do that. No, you can't. No, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. No, you need to fit into this box. No. But that's all crap. So believe in yourself. And yeah, don't assume that people know more than you, because like I said before, it's all based on opinion. It's literally, we know this, right? People have a conversation, someone will say something, they don't even know where they heard it. Someone will hear it, take it on as fact, and then start telling people that it's a fact. So yeah, don't do that. Don't judge circumstance. I kind of went over that, didn't I? Because nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I think we did pretty well.
May I just add something to the education system? You know, so many of us come out of the education system with us a label we give ourselves. We were an A student, we were a B student, we were a failure, you know, we were good at maths, we were bad at this. But again, they're just the judgments that curriculum told us. So many kids were not given the correct environment for them to expand and explore their gifts, because the school system was created only in a certain way. So it's really for us to drop that any labels that we came out of school with, and just know once we connect to that universal field, we have as much access to universal knowledge as anyone.
Yeah, and just remember that quote by Rockefeller: "I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers."
Yeah.
All right, they don't want you to think. So all these over-educated people, that they're just workers. That's what Rockefeller wants them to be. They're doing exactly what Rockefeller wants them. They're being good little slaves.
Yes.
So yeah, it's. I mean, what do they put us in? Right, we go into school and they put us in a classroom. All right, so they can put us all in different classes. You're the fat kid, you're the skinny kid, you're the smart kid, you're the dumb kid. All right, create classes and division. Why not? Start young. But just because they say that, it doesn't mean that art is invalid. It doesn't mean that creativity is invalid, because they hate creativity. You know, they only want us to create what they want us to create.
Yes.
But they want to tell you, no, unless you're a left brain person into maths and blah blah blah, then you're not smart, you're not intelligent, you're not valid. Well, that's crap. Yeah. So this goes back to, don't, you know, how would these people know more than you? Like, and also look at their lives. A thing about listening to people: if you're going to listen to someone about how to make money, are you going to listen to a homeless dude down the street with no pants on? You're not, right? You're going to listen to someone who's got a lot of money. So anything we listen to, find out who you're listening. Like, if someone's telling you about whatever, how to live a happy life, you better want to make sure that they're actually happy before you take any of that on, because people love to tell you, I've got the answer, I've got the answer, I've got the answer, oh, this, and it's just crap. Then you look at their life and they're these broken down people, and that's literally all they've got left, is to try and pretend that they're knowledgeable. And if you believe that, you're going to end up where they are. So, you know, where's your information coming from? Because that was my last point that I didn't touch, is people are what they do, not what they say.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, a lot of people can
I live by that.
Yes.
Words are cheap. People will say anything. I can say I'm King Louis the 14th. Doesn't make me King Louis the 14th. All right. People are what they do. So don't listen to people. People will tell you, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, great. Watch what people do. You know, if you want to get in and support a certain thing, make sure that they're actually doing what they say they're going to do. You know, if you're going to follow, you know, anyone and their information, make sure that they're the kind of person you want to be, and that they're doing what they say they're doing. Not that they're just not a mouthpiece, right? Because so easy to say stuff, much harder to do it.
Great examples are health ministers, right? You look at health ministers around the world, and they're usually
I know,
showing
right?
example of health, or
Don't take their advice.
peace ambassadors. You know, I mean, are they really peaceful?
Yeah.
You know, even within their family, their community, within themselves. You know, it's just, yeah, be the example, right? And then look to people who are actually living their truth and are living peaceful, joyful, abundant lives, and ask them how they're doing it, instead of just a book who you've no idea who, you know, what sort of lifestyle the author was living.
Exactly. You know, and you know, we see this so often in the self-help. You know, I think a lot of people are starting to recognize now what was going on there with the whole self-help movement. You know, that we get these. The thing is, you can't rewrite someone else's book or course and sell it, can you? So back in the 50s, we had, you know, like Jim Rohns and these kind of people who had literally started with nothing and gone and made a success of their life, and they were happy, and they wrote about it. People started asking them, how do you do it? And they went, oh, well, okay, I'll write a book. And then someone's like, oh, he was making money selling his book. I'm going to sell a book. That's my business. But I can't say exactly what he said, so I need to change it a bit. And then the next person comes along and they change it a bit more. And then the next person, and then 10 books down the line, you're getting just gobbledygook from someone who's done nothing. And the only reason they're successful is you're buying their book that is based on information that's 10 hands old. So, yeah, I don't know what I was going at with that. But just be careful the information you take on.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, people just love to be the expert, don't they? They love to be the expert.
Yeah, it gives them that bit of
What
glory.
is a pert anyway?
Makes you someone better than someone
I
else.
think we need more. Yeah, we need more perts and less experts.
Right, yeah.
I don't even. What is a pert?
I don't know, you tell me. Campbell, in your discovery
No
of
idea.
truth, what would you say was the most unbelievable, like the most fascinating piece of information that you discovered and rewrote your personal truth with?
Yep, that's easy. Everything's your fault. I sort of came across that quote a few times, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that, but I didn't reject it and say, "Oh, that's wrong." I was like, "Oh, really? Everything's my fault?" But the government, but. And then it took me probably 5 or 6 years to get my head around it. And then when I got it, I was like, hello, yeah, everything's my fault. Everything's your fault. And once you get that, you can't blame anyone for anything. The buck stops with you. If something goes wrong, it's your fault. If something goes right, it's your fault too. And this is the thing, you say that everything's your fault and people get triggered, but you go up to someone who's living their perfect life and you say, everything's your fault. And they'll be like, yep, bloody oath it is. I created all of this.
Yes.
But you say to someone who doesn't like their life, and they're like, how dare you? How dare you? But the government, but.
Yeah.
I'd say get off your butts. Everything is your fault and nothing will change until you understand that. The world would love you to believe that everything is someone else's fault, because then you'll do nothing,
Yeah.
right? You'll
Yeah.
do nothing, and if you do nothing, you become nothing. So take it on. Everything's your fault. Why is this happening? Why am I getting this result? Why is, bring it back to you. And if you need to change something, change it, because if it's the world's fault, and of course we've all seen these people running around with green hair who think it's the world's fault, and they yell and they scream, but nothing changes for them. But if it's the world's fault, you got to go and change 8 billion people.
Right.
Right? If it's your fault, you just got to go find a mirror.
Yeah.
Much easier.
This is great. I think this is a good time to touch on the shift that I see happening now, especially within the sort of truther and conscious communities. Whereas, especially with, the attention on COVID and what's been happening the last 3 years, many of us shifted our focus onto what was happening externally in the geopolitical realm, in the health and science fields. But now we're taking this shift back and reclaiming our inner truth as the way to step out of the so-called matrix, instead of trying to fix the external matrix. How do you phrase that shift?
Yeah. There's a quote from Buckminster Fuller. If you want to change the world, don't focus on tearing down the old system. Just build a new one, and the old one will fade away.
Yes.
And that's it. This is the thing with all this, disclosure and information, and I do worry about it a bit. It's putting people's focus back on the system. Yes. This is happening. And I obviously touch on these things. When I do, I just try and make it funny. Just try and not put too much emphasis. You don't want to get people emotionally attached to these things, because then they're back in victim status. Oh my God, but so yeah, we've just got to take control. All this focusing on the system is just going to, whatever we focus on grows, right? Clearly, so if we're focusing on, oh, now Biden's doing this, now the government's doing this, now there's this, now there's, for one, we're scared, right? And we're creating what they want to do. But all that time that we've spent worrying and creating what they want us to create, we haven't been creating what we want to create. So we've actually lost twice. Right? It's not just, because that time could have been used creating something better, right? But we've used it to create something worse. So I would be very careful with all this sharing of, information. And I understand, a lot of people have woken up recently and they're all excited and, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard this? But maybe just stop it and think, how's that going to affect the people? Is this extrapolate, right? Extrapolate it out. What's the end result of me sharing all this information? Is this going to empower people? Is it going to help their life if they know that Biden, bumbled another word and shot down a balloon? Is it really going to change their life? Or is there maybe something else that you could share? Because, I'll bring it back to all I want to get people to do is have a different thought. Just think something different. And by sharing the mainstream, you're not doing that. You're just getting them back into the rhetoric of, this is reality. Politicians own you. They make all the rules. They make the decisions. Poor little you.
Yes. And it's exactly as you said, I've always said, whether you're fighting for or against something, you're still part of the system, because, you're still cementing that reality with your focus of energy right where they want you. So the powers that be don't mind whether you're fighting for or against it, because as you said, we're the creators. So we're just fortifying that system for them. So yeah, I had another question. I can't remember it now, but hopefully it'll come back. But yeah, I do see this shift, and I think this. Oh, yeah, that's it. So this also waiting for a savior, whether it's in the form of Trump or Jesus or Jasara or the solar flash. People are waiting and waiting for this external source to save them, when we have to take the power back as individuals. And exactly as you said, that so as we rise our frequency and we focus on building the new earth, the new world, new earth, the old one naturally fades away. And that's the quantum reality. We don't have to crumble the old one. We just have to shift our focus to the new one, and that expands. And slowly, slowly, you look around you and you're not affected by the system anymore. You're not affected by corporations. And you're like, oh, did something happen? Am I already in New Earth? I mean, basically, I don't know. That's how it works for me. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever we put our energy into is going to stay persistent at the very least, right?
Yes.
So yeah, the more we focus on a power structure that controls us, the longer they're going to be there. So yeah, all this stuff about they're wrong and they're right and this needs to change, it doesn't really matter. The way I look at it is that's the old world. I mean, who wants to go back to 2019 and run around in circles for the rest of their life?
Let's get back to
we
normal.
yeah, right, yeah. The new normal.
No thanks.
And this is the biggest leap, is, and myself included, like we're all so programmed that it's hard to make that, it can be hard to make that leap. You've got to, it takes work. This stuff may take years, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. It's like, so just it's hard to disconnect from the system. It really is. It takes time. You've got to keep getting back to that, because what we're doing is reprogramming our subconscious mind. And you can imagine how many programs and inputs your subconscious mind has had in the 40, 50, whatever years you've been alive. So to change that, you're not going to put it in once and your subconscious mind is like, oh, okay, we'll just change everything. So you've got to keep getting back to those thoughts of, what do I want? What's possible? What can I do? Yes, I want that. Yes, it is possible. And just thinking, and I used to think about this a lot when I was young, like this original thought, right? And I used to think, does it even exist? Does original thought even exist down here? And I think it does, but it's not, pretty small, but try and get to that place, right? Try and get to places where you're thinking as yourself. I mean, try that. Try to get to a thought that's not predicated off your reality and your experience, because this is the thing. Once we can break that, this is reality, then we become real, true creators and manifestors. And that's really sort of the last bit, is letting go, because we've spent our whole life in that. This is reality, and so we've got to do a bit of work. But when we understand that it's just something that we've created, right? That's all it is. It's just a spell. and we can change it, then it'll change. It'll change very quickly, I think.
Yeah. Where do you see those of us who are, let's say, on the creative timeline, where do you see us in 10 years' time, say the collective reality?
Yeah, I see us in our own communities. I really think there's going to be a split. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, if we're all going to be in the same, frequency, shall we say? Because this is the thing with frequency. I don't know if you know about cymatics, but if you look into cymatics, when you play a certain frequency, it makes a certain shape, and you change that frequency, by a little bit, and instantly that shape changes, right? So if everything's frequency, and we always talk about raising our frequency, right, and the vibration and all this, does that mean that those of us that can see what's going on are going to hit a point where we literally phase into a new frequency, right? Because I think all realities are here, just all at the same time, just all in different frequencies. So that's one. Will we raise up into the new world? I don't know. Or will we just separate from the masses, right? Because clearly they want smart cities, and we're not. We just are not going to be a frequency match for that. So we might end up where there's smart cities, right, full of the sheep, and then our communities out in the bush. And I think it might be how it starts, and then over time, because obviously we're entering the age of Aquarius. Over time, the smart cities will collapse and crumble, and our communities will sort of rise. But I think nature, right? I think nature is a big thing. We all want to get back to nature. We all want to get out of these cities, mainly, but because all the architecture, the geometry is wrong. It's designed to make us feel bad. It's designed to make us stressed out, to make us sick. Plus all the frequencies, all the rules. That's clearly not for us. So we need to get out there and create our own spaces, our own communities. And just as a point, a lot of people want to do this, and I hear it all the time, is people are like, I just need $1 million and I can do it. You don't. That's the system. That's the system telling you that money equals land and that land equals money. That's not true. So if you think that you need $1 million, I've got to tell you, you're not going to get your land. You need to change how you're thinking. I don't have $1 million. I wanted to live on land, right? I'm like, I want to get out. I want to be on, a big block of land. Now my podcast partner owns a couple of 100 acres, and she said, come and live with me. And then last week, someone else in the same area who's got an off-grid, a couple of 100 acres, he's got all these self-contained things. He's like, come and live here. You're welcome. Tell me which house you want. Didn't cost me $1 million.
Yeah.
And so these are the things we need to change, is the way that we think. So just thinking that you need money to get something, that's the system. That's 2019. All right, we need to rise above that and understand that everything's energy. And again, you just got to put it out there, right? Put out the intention. This is what I want, and be true to it and focus on it, and it will turn up. I guarantee you, it's nothing to do with money. And this is why so many people can't manifest. All right, that they don't think of what they want. They think of, oh, I just want money. Then all my problems will be solved. Yes. Oh, I want land, but I'm just going to ask for $2 million.
Yeah.
The money is not going to make you happy, and that's why you can't manifest it.
Yeah, because there's a huge difference, in my opinion, between money and abundance, or let's say money, wealth, yes, abundance, because abundance can come in so many forms. Like, yes, for you, this offer of land and housing with a friend. I mean, at the end of the day, does it matter that you own it? No, you've got your dream of living on the land in a community. We're just so programmed, as you said, that we have to buy land, build a house, and build our community. But you've created it through abundance of attracting the same thing into your life without money.
Yeah. And I think that's what you need to do, is put out the intention. And another big thing I think, and I'm very big on, is you need to deserve what you're asking for. So many people just want. They just want. I refuse to change. I just want. Right. But no, you can't go through the door unless you're worthy. So if you want something, If you want land, well, become the kind of person that people are going to offer land to. What can you give? You know, what's your value that you can put out? Because all value is responded to with value, and that's it. It's value. It's wealth. It's not cash. It's not money. It's wealth. So start with what can you give, and get away from the money thing. It might be learning to garden. It might be, you know, just getting a skill. It might be whatever. But just take it on. And I just remember your last question about waiting for a savior. Don't do that. The thing is, the way I say it is, look, you can, you know, wait for a savior, and that's great, you know, if they turn up. But what if they don't? You know, but if you get yourself prepared and you're going along great, and you're relying on yourself, and a savior turns up, awesome, makes it easier, right? So both ways, rely on yourself.
This has been a fascinating conversation, Cambell. Is there anything else on self-education that you want to say as final words to wrap up with? And then we'll hear all about what you're up to with your channels, please.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just a message of, you know, don't believe what other people tell you. Don't let them have charge over you. Don't put people on this pedestal when you don't even know who they are or what they stand for. Because when we do this, we put ourselves down. You know, you're just as valid. Your thoughts are just as valid. You're just as intelligent. So get out there and, don't believe everything you hear. People are what they do, not what they say. And just get out there and create whatever you want.
Yeah, so good.
That's
amazing.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Self-education is the way forward.
Definitely. Now we'll drop your links all below, but do you want to just give us a brief outline of what you're up to on your channels, please?
Yes. So Autodidactic is a history or alternative history channel. You'll find lots of stuff on there. So lots of interviews, lives, short videos, podcasts. I do a podcast called Tartaria Australia with Kelly Jones, and we have a live event in Lismore on the 15th of April, I think, April. So if you're in the area, come and check that out. And there's also, I do have another channel called Spiral Up, which I've kind of been, I haven't done much on it for the last couple of months, but I'm going to get back into that. This interview will probably go up on there. So yeah, that's another channel I have, which I'm going to get into, because like I said, my channel's kind of melded into one, and now they're basically one topic. So since I'm moving to a farm and getting off grid, I decided, well, I've got a channel, maybe I'll show people what it's like to live off grid, right? And get some more, and again, that's just some more value that I feel I can give. You know, a lot of people want to know what to do, so I'll get out there and see if I can pass some on, and hopefully this is the thing, if we all put value in and our intention, we'll pretty much all get what we want.
And this, to wrap it all up, this is why they want to suppress our creativity. I mean, you know, you're using your creative skills in talents in your information sharing, your research, YouTube channel. You know, I do it through my writing. We each have a way that we can give back. And that's exactly why, you know, they wanted us to focus so much on the mental rote learning and maths and spelling, and, you know, to keep us away from this creative building, because we're the ones that are building the new earth.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why no one knows how to build anymore, right? They stopped teaching us all these things at school because they don't want us to have the skills. But we're smart, all the skills are still there, so put the intention out, and you know, people will literally pop out of the ether at you and say hello.
So true. Wow, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much, Cambell. It's always a pleasure to chat to you, and I love this subject too, and hearing it from you. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and make sure to check out Cambell's channels. And I'll see you in a few days with another episode of Heart Warriors. Bye. Stay on if you want. Hang on.